Hi, mathematicians. This is Mrs. Shopper coming back to you with this next part in our slope-intercept form. We're going to be reviewing different ways to graph in slope-intercept form, and then just how to go between the information, the equation, the graph, really going in those different forms of functions. Again, we want to focus on going from t-table, graph, algebraic, which is an equation, verbal, which is a story problem. How do we go about all of those? So when I'm looking at this, here's my equation. And in this slope-intercept form, the 2 is my slope. The 4 is my y-intercept. Okay, that's why we call it slope-intercept form. Isn't that awesome when we do stuff like that? So slope-intercept form. Okay, so a way to graph it is using a t-table. That's something that we've done lots before. But in a shortcut, so who doesn't like a shortcut, right? The shortcut is to say, okay, 4 is my y-intercept. So I know that that's going to have to be a dot there. Like that's a point on the line. It's the y-intercept. Now my slope is -2, or I could write it as -2/1, meaning that I'm going to go down 2, because it's negative, to the right 1, because it's +1. So I'm going to count down 2 to the right 1 and put a dot. So my slope is showing me how I'm going to move. So I go down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1. Okay. And then once I plot my dots, I can draw my line through it, arrows on the end. Okay. And that's a shortcut. And we're going to take some time today to practice how to graph it that way. You can always go back to a t-table. Use what you want to do. Use what works for you. This isn't about doing it my way. Okay. I'll show you a couple different strategies. I'll help guide you, but you can pick what you want. All right, so here we go. We're going to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So to do that, we need to know the slope and we need to know the y-intercept. So let's start with the blue line, number 1. I see that it crosses the y-axis at -2. So that's my b. Where it crosses the y-axis is my b. Now my slope, we've practiced this. I'm going to take 2 points and I'm going to figure out my rise over my run. So it looks like I rise 2 and I run backwards -2. So my slope is 2 over -2, which can be simplified to -1. So -1x. So my equation is y equals -1x plus -2. Okay. Let's look at the orange line. Oops, that color is the same thing. Here we go. So I need to find my rate of change. That's what I multiply by x. And then my b, that's where it crosses the y-axis. So y equals mx plus b. So I see that it crosses the y-axis at 3. That's my b. And then my slope, if I start here, there's a dot. Where's another dot? Here's another dot. Okay. So I'm going to rise 3 and I'm going to run 2. 3 halves is my m. Okay. So my equation is y equals 3 halves x plus 3. When I write an equation in slope-intercept form, I need to find my slope and I need to find my intercept. Those are the 2 things that I need every time I write an equation in slope-intercept form. All right, let's take a look at this one. We're going to graph these lines. We're going to write the equation and graph it. So y equals mx plus b. So my slope is -2/3. My y-intercept is 4. So what I want to do is I'm graphing. And again, I'm working from translating between these different forms of linear equations. Okay, so B is my y-intercept. That's where I'm going to start. Then my slope is negative 2/3. That means I go down 2 because it's negative 2, and I go to the right 3. So I go down 1, 2, to the right 1, 2, 3. Down 2, to the right 3. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. Just like that. Okay, my first one. Now, when I look at the next one, notice how I present the information differently. I use the word slope instead of m, and we write the y-intercept as an ordered pair. So my slope, I'm going to switch colors. My slope is 3. My y-intercept is negative 2. That's where it crosses the y-axis. So on my graph, I'm going to put a dot on my y-intercept. That's where I'm going to start. That's where I begin. And then I'm going to rise 3. So if my slope is 3, it's like saying it's 3/1. We'll write it as a fraction. And then we rise 3, we run 1. So I'm going to go up 3/1. I'm going to go up 3/1. Up 3/1. And I keep marking those spots. Okay. And there's my line. Now, when you look at those two lines, which one's steeper? The purple one is. Okay. So I'm going to highlight the purple line to show which one is steeper. Okay. Let's try another one. Okay. Here we have the equations. The graphs, we're going to write the equation for it. So here's my graph. Number 5 is purple. It crosses the y-axis at -1, 2, 3, at -4. Okay. My slope, I'm going to find 2 points on the line. So here's a point, and here's a point. I'm going to figure out my rise over my run. So I rise 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 4. My run is -2. So it equals -2. Let's go ahead and look at the green one. It crosses the y-axis at -1. So that's my B. And my slope, I'm going to pick 2 points. So I'm going to pick this point and this point. I rise 1 and I run 4. So my slope is 1/4. My slope is 1/4. Okay. Okay, we're going to do one more activity here, and then we're going to have you work on a Schoology activity. We're going to practice writing equations and graphing them out and so on. So here we go. With this equation, we give you the equation. Now we want you to identify your slope and your y-intercept. My slope is -2. My y-intercept is 5. So I begin at 5. Now with my slope is 5/1, that means I rise 5 and I run 1. So rise 5, run 1. Now here's something to bring up. I could also write it as -5 over -1 because a negative divided by a negative is positive. So I could also go down 5 and back 1. So down 5, back 1. Down 5 and back 1. Okay. And so draw my line. There we go. Arrows on the end. One more. You're doing a good job hanging in there. Hopefully by now you're saying, hey, this is a little more challenging than the first one she did. That's our goal. Okay. Now this one is not written in slope-intercept form. It's actually written in standard form. So what we need to do is to rewrite it in slope-intercept form. This is why we've been practicing rewriting equations. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. We've done this a few times this year. Keeps coming back. Okay, this is where we were talking about writing an equation where y is a function of x. So we had you write y equals, keeps coming back, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide everything by -2. So y equals 3/2 x minus 2. And it's 3/2 x because negative divided by negative is positive. So my slope is 3/2. My b is -2. So I begin on the y-axis at -2, and then I rise 3, run 2. Rise 3, run 2. Rise 3, run 2. Draw a line like this. Just like that. All right. So your activity now is to work on the Schoology activity, your matching graphs and equations. Have a good day. Bye, friends.